estado. Todo esto se pudo coordinar y desplegar en menos de 24 horas, cuando normalmente se demoran unos 48 horas. Estos incendios son obviamente trágicos y nuestros corazones están con nuestros amigos en California que están sufriendo bastante en este momento, y estoy muy agradecido por que nuestros bomberos han podido ir en este corto periodo de tiempo para poder ayudar a nuestros amigos. Nuestras cuadrillas trabajan en turnos de 24 horas para poder estar allí en todo momento. Yo creo que voy a leer, es una carta muy corta, es una carta que recibí de una ciudadana del sur de California, se llama Daniel. Estimados bomberos de Utah, en nombre del pueblo de Los Ángeles, quiero expresar nuestra más profunda gratitud por sus incansables esfuerzos en la lucha contra los incendios en nuestro condado. Su valentía, dedicación y abnegación frente a estos enormes desafíos son impresionantes y profundamente apreciados. El pueblo de Los Ángeles está más agradecido de lo que las palabras pueden expresar. Su voluntad de abandonar sus propios hogares y comunidades para ayudar a proteger a nuestros demuestra la fuerza de su carácter y el espíritu de unidad que encarna. No solo está salvando vidas y hogares, sino que también nos está dando esperanza y una profunda sensación de consuelo en estos tiempos difíciles. Gracias por su duro trabajo, sus sacrificios y su compromiso inquebrantable de mantenernos a salvo. Son auténticos héroes y nunca olvidaremos el impacto que han tenido en nuestras vidas. Con infinita y sincera gratitud, Daniel. Estamos muy agradecidos por su labor al servicio de quienes realmente lo necesitan. Sí, ella no compartió todo el plan. Esa fue una charla que tuvo y una oportunidad de conectarse y ver el progreso. Y lo que puedo ver que el speaker de la Casa Blanca estuvo allí y estuvo con el presidente del Senado y se unió a nosotros en esa reunión y en contra de la reunión anterior. Y puedo decir que la reunión fue muy bien. Yo creo que cada uno va a decir eso. Yo de verdad agradezco a las personas que están allí y el trabajo diligente, y ella se interesa mucho por esto. Esto es más colaboración que más que nada. Hay un rol para que el Estado tiene que jugar. Más va a venir, más noticias van a venir, y estamos ansiosos y viendo para ver más detalles del plan. Que si el Estado está preparado, si esto no te satisface, no sé si tenemos unas discusiones profundas sobre qué es lo que va a suceder, si no estamos satisfechos, sí o no. Eso no importa. Lo que queremos últimamente es un plan en lo que podamos trabajar juntos, y ella quiere eso también. Entonces, nuevamente, quiero felicitar al alcalde y a su equipo para que puso muchas horas en hacer este plan, y lógicamente este plan no es más que algo que es escrito, pero también es la ejecución del plan lo que va a importar, y estamos esperando para comunicarnos con eso. Pero va a haber intervención estatal, puede saber cómo macromanejar la ciudad de Salt Lake City. Estamos tratando de resolver un problema muy grande, y eso es lo que estamos tratando de hacer. Y también nosotros trabajamos con nuestros oficiales locales y vamos a continuar a hacerlo. Hay problemas en todo el estado, pero Salt Lake City es la ciudad capital, es donde está el gobierno está, y también hemos tenido muy buena relación y siempre ha estado ahí desde el comienzo de nuestro estado, y siempre vamos a continuar. Gobernador, hay algunas indicaciones que los distritos escolares están tienen demasiado dinero. ¿Cuál es su preocupación de que ellos estén tomando demasiado dinero? Bueno, lo primero hay que ver que la educación trate de educar a nuestros hijos lo más que se puede. Y he hablado con Joe Dugan, la persona que hizo la auditoría anteriormente, y hemos puesto algunos, él va a utilizar sus herramientas para ver en dónde está el dinero, cómo lo han gastado, para verlo de una manera más cercana. Yo lo contraté hace hace casi 6 meses, creo, y va a haber un nuevo consejero de todo lo que tiene que ver de educación. El superintendente también va a estar en el que vamos a poner, es muy respetado y va a tener mejor idea de cómo llevar a cabo o cómo manejar el distrito escolar. Entonces, nosotros nos encanta tener
we look at the numbers and where the money is going or not going, as the case may be, and that's a school district by school district conversation.
How confident are you that the money is being spent appropriately in districts across the state?
Yeah, so I will say some districts are better than others for sure, and again, these tools are publicly available that allow us to look at where the money is going and how it's being spent. And every year we review those things. There will be bills, I'm sure, coming through the legislature dealing with education and where the money is being spent. I have tremendous confidence in our superintendents and our local officials across the state. We have some of the best administrative leaders in education. We also have some of the lowest administrative costs. If you look across the 50 states, now I will admit it's been a while since I've seen these numbers, but I know a few years ago when I looked, we were number 2 in the state for the lowest cost of school administrators and administrations in the country, which I was very proud of and grateful for. And so again, always a conversation, always something that we're looking at, but we do more with less than just about anywhere in the country.
Should these numbers, though, these balances, should they give you and the legislature pause when it comes to increases in education spending, or, and I know this is a local decision, but when it comes to bonding for capital improvements?
So look, saving money is a good thing, and I don't want to be critical about school districts that are not spendthrifts. I would rather have them not spend the money than spend it on something that isn't having a desired outcome. And so I think being smart about it is really important. The funding of schools is incredibly complicated. I think it's too complicated, to be honest. There are very few people in this state that understand where all the money comes from and where it all goes. You talk to the school administrators who actually work on the finance side of things. It's incredibly complex, and there's money that can only be used for certain things. So you can't you can't use all the money for capital needs. And we have some school districts in rural. In fact, part of our proposal this year in our budget, we have rural school districts that have schools that are 50 plus years old. They will never have the tax base. They can't bond to build schools. So they have to save some money to be able to just repair roofs and keep the doors open. And so we're looking at better ways to do that as well. So I do think it is a worthy discussion to look at not just how we fund schools, but where the money can be used and where it can't be used and where it is being used.
Governor, will you be at President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday?
I will, yes. Yeah.
And how soon are you expecting that the state will need to be ready to respond?
Honestly, Brigham, so I was in West Palm Beach just a week ago. I guess it was exactly a week ago with 24 governors. There were 24 of the 27 Republican governors that were in attendance, and that was one of the discussions that we had. In fact, I specifically asked the question. We're seeing orders, decisions coming out of the Biden administration that are clearly last minute, very politically driven, and just unseemly orders that are coming out. And the question I asked is, what is your administration's plan to deal with these last minute orders that they would never have done had they actually won the election, and the Capitol, and start signing orders to undo some of those things. So I don't know what that will look like, but we'll be prepared from day one to start working together on whatever that is.
What's an example of one of those that would impact Utah the most? Would it have to do maybe with the Northern Corridor in Washington County?
Sure, yeah.
Other examples?
Yeah, that's a great one. The Northern Corridor in Washington County, again, a last-minute decision that goes against everything we've been working collaboratively on and together on for years. Also, I we believe, violates the statute, the congressional law that was passed that would eventually lead to the designation of the Northern Corridor. We've had decisions by the EPA that are affecting Utah. We were having great discussions. We were all on the same page. We were headed a certain direction, and then out of nowhere, we just get blindsided with these types of decisions that impact our ability to move forward as a state. I suspect that we'll probably see some more in the next couple days, and that sadly wouldn't surprise me.
Governor, the legislature is expected to consider some significant changes to Utah's election administration, including possible limitations to mail voting and possibly removing election oversight from the lieutenant governor. Would you support changes, or do you think election administration needs to remain in the hands of the lieutenant governor? Well,
let me just start by saying that we have an incredible lieutenant governor. It's a position I've served in, a position Governor Herbert served in before me, and running elections is not an easy task. In fact, it's one of the hardest tasks we have in modern politics. And our lieutenant governor has done an incredible job. She does things the right way. She always follows the law and has complete integrity in everything that she does. And she has said, look, my job is to administer the law, whatever that law is. And so I do believe that there are changes that need to happen. I've mentioned that before. I do believe that we should make changes so that we can count ballots on election night, so that we can have many more ballots available, that we can have most of our races decided on election night. There's no reason we couldn't do that. That's just a choice that we've made to allow a large amount of mail-in ballots to come in after as long as they're postmarked the day before the election. They can come in for a week or two afterwards. We could make changes to that. We could move those deadlines and move them up, and that's something I would certainly support. I believe that that's something that would add trust to the system. I think one of the areas, and then 5 days later they're losing a race, and that calls into question lots of things, even though, again, there is no evidence, and I believe because it has never happened. We have complete integrity in our elections. I would remind people that the lieutenant governor does not run elections in this state. Lieutenant governor oversees elections. Elections are run by our county clerks. The lieutenant governor does not count or open or look at a single ballot. Neither does anyone in her office. That's not the role. And so I have trust in our county clerks, in our 29 county clerks, who are the ones who are actually administering the elections. But I do think that the getting a decision, again, in the vast majority of races, you'll never get all of them because some of them are too close, and some of them will always need recounts. That's going to happen regardless. It happened before we had mail-in balloting, including my race when I was running for county commissioner the first time. I didn't find out for 2 weeks whether I won or not, and that was before mail-in balloting. So look, yeah, there will be some changes made, but we'll work closely with the legislature to decide on what those changes should be.
But you will or will not support removing election oversight from the lieutenant governor?
I don't think we need to completely remove oversight there. I do think, and this is something I was always worried about, what happens when a lieutenant governor is running in a race. So when, for the first time in our state's history, when I was running for governor, I did something very unique, and that is I designated someone else to take any issues that would have impacted me and then make a written recommendation, because the law didn't allow me at the time to delegate that authority away. I would still have to make the decision, but it would be, there would be a lot of self-harm if a neutral third party made a decision and then I went against it. And the neutral third party did have to make a couple decisions in that in my election. Lieutenant Governor Henderson did the same thing during our last election when we were running, and I supported that. So I think there are some things we could do around that. Again, if it looks bad, we want to avoid it. Even if nothing wrong is happening, we want to make sure that people can have faith in the election process. And if that's something that is of concern to people, and sure, I can see why it would be. I would also just recognize that all 29 county clerks also run for office and also administer their own elections where they actually do count ballots, and that's the way it's been from the very founding of our state.
Governor, we do have some reporters joining us remotely. We want to go to Parker Malatesta with KPCW. Parker, go ahead with your question.
Hey, Governor. Park City has been the subject of national news recently. A lot of holiday visitors to Park City Mountain were upset over conditions due to the ski patrol strike. Any concern about one of Utah's biggest tourism destinations taking a reputational hit?
Well, sure. I don't think, we don't love it when that type of thing happens. We try not to meddle in those situations, and I'm glad that a resolution was reached. We have lots of amazing ski resorts in the state, lots of amazing ski destinations, and I'm hoping that was something that was a blip, and we won't see again anytime soon. I appreciate the patience of everybody who was involved, and some who had their vacations that were disrupted because there were long lines and less areas open. But what I can say is the ski industry is doing very well this year. We've had great snow, and we're right about normal, a little above normal in some northern Utah areas, southern Utah below normal for sure, and we're hoping to get more precipitation in southern Utah. But again, the best snow on earth, the best skiing anywhere around, best snowboarding. It's great that Utah is such a destination. And I do believe that reputational hit will be short-lived.
And Parker has a follow-up question. Go ahead,
sure.
Parker.
Yeah, relevant to the LA wildfires, we've heard from insurers that Wasatch Back homeowners are increasingly dealing with higher premiums and a lack of coverage in some areas due to wildfire risk. Does your administration or the legislature have any plans to address this issue?
Yeah, we've been having conversations for sure. We've been talking with insurers. John Pike, who's the insurance commissioner for our state, has been leading the charge here. What I can tell you is that we are very fortunate that we have about 100 insurers in the state of Utah that provide homeowners insurance here. And while there are decisions being made again by some carriers about what their pricing will be and what areas they're willing to cover, so far there still is an ability for Utahns to get coverage, unlike some places in California. And I would just add that one of the reasons it's so hard to get coverage in California is because of decisions that politicians and the people of California made that may have seemed good in the short term in limiting the ability to raise insurance rates to actually cover losses, and so they're providing coverage below market rates and below the risk that actually happens there. And because it takes upwards of a year to get approval in California for any rate increases, and those rate increases have been limited, it is true that Californians have been paying lower prices than they otherwise would have paid. And now we see the end result of that is that the market can't keep up, and so many are pulling out of the market. That's bad. So something that was meant to help Californians actually ended up hurting them worse on the back end. And I'm hoping that we won't make the same mistakes here in the state of Utah. And we again have to make decisions based on risk. And as more and more people want to build in areas where wildfire is a danger, they're going to pay higher premiums. That's just the nature of this, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it is, again, nobody likes to pay more. I understand that, but you'll like it a lot less when your house is gone and you don't have any insurance coverage.
Governor Doug Burgum testified in front of the Senate committee today. I'm curious what you think of that nomination and how that could change how public lands are managed in the state.
Yeah, well, how did it go? I haven't had a chance this morning to see anything.
It seemed like it went well. He did express some desire to maybe work with the state to change the Bears Ears and Grand Staircase. Yeah.
So let me just answer the question. Again, I haven't had a chance. I've been working all morning, so I haven't seen any of the coverage of his hearing. What I can tell you is Doug Burgum, as the pick for Interior, Secretary of Interior, was probably the single best decision that Donald Trump has made in his previous administration or this current one. I like to tell people that Doug Burgum is so well respected by governors, both the right and the left, Republicans and Democrats. I've joked that every governor likes to think they're the smartest person in the room until we get in the room with Doug Burgum, and then we all know it's not us. And Governor Burgum, soon to be Secretary Burgum, is just a brilliant human being. He understands these issues as well as anyone out there. One of my favorite moments, if you'll forgive me for just rattling on a little bit about how great I think he is. We were meeting together as NGA, the National Governors Association, and we had a meeting that was just the governors, a lunch where we can talk a little more freely. And there was a debate broke out between two governors, the governor of North Dakota, Governor Burgum, and the governor of the great state of Washington, Governor Inslee. You probably won't find two more different people when it comes to their views on the environment and regulation and everything else. And the debate was incredibly respectful. The meeting ended, and they stayed there for 20 minutes talking to each other about these very issues. And it just showed his willingness to listen and to learn from others, but also, again, the brilliant way in which he pushed back regularly. And I think he's going to be a great help when it comes to the public lands issues, permitting reform, the things that we need to happen to continue to protect the environment, to save our most beautiful landscapes, but also to unleash the ingenuity that exists in America and the value of our public lands in protecting not just protecting the economies of the United States, but also homeland security. I mean, our reliance on other nations, hostile nations, for critical minerals that are so important. Our reliance on other nations, again, our energy production. It's crazy that we're outsourcing those most valuable and precious resources that we have to people who hate us and want to do harm to us and who don't care about the environment at all. So he will be a breath of fresh air in this space.
Do you support shrinking Bears Ears again?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Sorry, question.
Yeah. Session just around the corner. What are your biggest priorities?
Biggest priorities. The two largest priorities. One was our number one priority last year, continues to be this year. It's the price of housing, and our ability to build more and to lower the price of housing so our kids and grandkids can live here and can own real property and achieve the American dream. Number two is energy production in this state. We have an energy crisis across the nation, across much of the developed world. Through our Operation Gigawatt, we're working very closely with the legislature. We know we need to double the amount of energy that we're producing in the next few years, and we have robust plans to do that. So that's a huge one for us, and then helping our seniors and getting a tax cut for our seniors, making sure that we're able to eliminate the tax on Social Security. One of only 8 states that after West Virginia completely repeals theirs, that will still be taxing Social Security. That's a huge one for us, as well as some other issues around our seniors, making sure that we're helping them as some of our most vulnerable.
Governor, Sundance is next week. Can you tell us what the state is doing differently this year to keep the film festival in Utah?
Yeah,
and have you been involved in any recent conversations with organizers as they weigh a potential move?
Yeah, sorry, Kim, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yes, we're working very diligently with the committee that is presented to Sundance. I believe that Sundance is an important part of the state of Utah and has been for such a long time. And so yes, I have been involved. I have had conversations. I spoke to the Sundance Executive Committee and the committee that's responsible for eventually making that decision several months ago. We'll have additional conversations going forward. There are several people that are involved in trying to make this happen. I think it would be a huge mistake for Sundance themselves to move. I think it would be really a death knell for Sundance. I talked to some people in Hollywood, some actors and some others who, when they found out Sundance was considering moving, they couldn't believe it. They were kind of dumbfounded, and they laughed when they heard at some of the potential destinations. It's just so ubiquitous with Utah and the opportunities it provides here. Look, if Sundance decides to go, we'll be fine. I don't think Sundance will be fine, but we'll be fine. But we want them here. They are an incredible driver for our economy and make a huge difference. We're excited. We've been working closely with them as well. Look, these wildfires have have impacted many of their people, right? A lot of the movie industry is located in LA. So many people from the Southern California area come out here, people who work for Sundance, and will be here, not just people who have movies that are showing, but of course them too. And so we've been proactive. We reach out to them to see how we can help with those who have been displaced or are struggling ahead of Sundance, which is coming up very quickly.
And that's all the time that we have. So sorry. That's all the time we have for our television broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us for the governor's monthly news conference. And Governor, I would like to introduce you to Bailey Britter. She's a Judge Memorial High School student sitting behind me. She's here for the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Lab. So Bailey, go ahead and ask your question.
Governor Cox, thanks for taking my question. As a soon-to-be driver on Utah roads, traffic safety is very important to me and my high school peers. I know your administration supports zero fatalities through the Utah Department of Transportation and encourages truck drivers to secure their loads to avoid dangerous road debris. My question is, why do I see so many large dump trucks full of gravel and other loose materials driving on our roads without covering their loads, when often their truck bed covers are folded up by their cabs instead? Now, I understand that this is currently required by law, but how could we as a state increase penalties and enforcement to protect Utah drivers? What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Bailey, for the question. As a dad of a teenage driver, I worry about those things too, and I so appreciate that. We do have laws in place and stiff fines for those who do not secure their loads, and sadly, every day you see it, I see it. We've had conversations with law enforcement, and we've had efforts over the past couple of years to increase the enforcement piece of that. Obviously, it's up to the legislature if there's a desire to actually increase the fines and penalties associated with that. But it's something we're deeply concerned about. I can tell you that the legislature has approved an increase for us this last legislation. It takes a while. Once the money kicks in July, then you have to go through the hiring process, and people have to go through post. And so we've been hiring additional officers at the Highway Patrol to help us on some of those roads that you're talking about and that you're driving on, so that we can catch more of the people who are not securing their loads and try to do better on that phase. Thank you. Ben, let's go to you and then Hannah.
I was asking what odds you'd put on Sundance staying.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I hope really high. I don't know. I'm not privy to what the discussions are happening internally for Sundance. But again, I think if you just look at the history of Sundance, if you look at the package that's been put together to work with them to help them stay here, I feel very good about it. It may not be the most lucrative package. There are some other states who can probably throw some more money at it, but if they want to stay successful, have a destination. The plan that we work together with Salt Lake City and Park City together, I think is a brilliant plan and a brilliant model, and so I would be surprised if they didn't stay, but again, I don't get to make that decision. We're certainly hopeful. We went through this with outdoor retailers a few years ago. Outdoor retailers made a huge mistake. They thought it would be better. They chased the money and the politics, and they went somewhere else, and it didn't work out for them, and they came back. And so I hope that we don't have a repeat of that with Sundance, because Sundance is so important. And again, Sundance is Utah, and Utah is Sundance. You can't really separate those two. And so we're really hopeful that we can provide the type of packages. It's not just government. There's the private sector who's working on this, can provide the right type of package to keep Sundance here, one that they'll appreciate and that they'll stick around and keep their seat at the table. Hannah.
Speaking of other places throwing money at Sundance, Colorado offered, let me see, it was $34 million in tax incentives to attract Sundance. I'm curious what you think of that offer, and then also how you think Utah is staying competitive in this space, and really what's at stake this week. Is there still potential to push the needle in one direction or the other?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's always potential to push the needle, and we will continue to do that. Again, we're going to do everything we possibly can. We're not going to throw $34 million in tax incentives. So like I said, if it's only about chasing money, then they can do that, and that's what outdoor retailers did, and the money wasn't worth it, and they ended up making a mistake, and they ended up coming back, and so that's great. If Colorado can do that, that's perfectly fine. Any state can throw their money at anything they want. That's one of the beauties of living in a free country where we can compete like that, and having states be the laboratories of democracy. I don't think the taxpayers of Utah would appreciate a number of that size, but there are some things we can do, and we'll continue to work with the legislature to help on that.
Are you going to be up there during Sundance and meeting with anybody? Or
yeah, we'll have meetings. Yeah. We always do during Sundance. I'll be at the kickoff, the annual show. Again, I just can't reiterate. Again, I don't love all the movies at Sundance. Many of them are not my taste, and but I do appreciate the creativity that it brings to our state. Again, the economic impact is huge. It really is. Now, fortunately, our economy is so much better and robust than other economies. I mean, there's a reason these other states are chasing it so desperately, because they're trying to catch up with Utah. Their economies aren't as good as Utah's economy right now, and so they're desperate for some of the advantages that we have. But so again, our economy will be okay. It won't take a hit if Sundance were to leave, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do everything we can to keep it here. I care deeply about Sundance. I care deeply the people that are involved with Sundance. Many of them are dear friends and people that we've worked with closely over many years. So to our friends at Sundance who are probably watching and listening, this is your home, and we desperately hope it will be your home for forever.
Governor, we would like to go to another reporter joining us remotely who has a question. Alexei Hernandez from Univision. Alexei, go ahead.
Hi, Governor. A Utah resident driving on I-15 near Sandy on January 10th saw a load of Border Patrol vehicles. Now, some are wondering if they were passing through or if they will be used here to detain immigrants in raids like they did in Bakersfield, California.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not aware of that. Haven't had any contact that we had a group of Border Patrol officials here. We do have, every state has immigration officials, and so they'll be doing what they always do, and that is deporting people who are here illegally.
Yeah. Utah State University has launched an external review of its housing program after concerns were raised about a transgender RA in an all-women's suite. Legislative leadership has indicated that the legislature, or suggested at least, the legislature could address this during the session. What is your position about this?
Yeah, well, my position is the same as it's always been, and the same as it was the past session. We need safe spaces for women, and that's really important. And so that's why we passed the bathroom and locker room bill, and I think this would apply in a similar situation. So I appreciate that Utah State is doing that review, and we want to make sure that there's spaces for everyone, and that's exactly what we've tried to do.
Do you think that the policy that allowed that assignment complies with or violates the current law? And if not, does the law need to be changed?
Yeah, there may need to be some tweaks to that law. I didn't look at the exact circumstance of this and apply it to the bill. I'm not sure it applied. I'm not sure that this was a situation that had been thought through at the time, and so there may need to be some tweaks.
Governor, we have a question from Darwin Santana with Telemundo, Utah, asking, how does your administration plan to collaborate with the federal government on immigration issues, particularly regarding border policies and pathways to citizenship?
Yeah, so again, I responded to this last month kind of ad nauseum, so I'll be brief. We're going to work very closely with the administration. I appreciate the legislature. We've been working closely with them. You saw gosh, I guess it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that that they released their list of priorities when it comes to immigration law in the state of Utah, and things we can do to help remove the criminal element and make sure that public safety is paramount. Again, that's what we've been working together on. Commissioner Jess Anderson, the Department of Public Safety, was present at that. I've been saying it for 15 years at least, ever since I've been in front of a microphone with an elected office, and that is, we have to secure the border and we have to fix legal immigration. We have to do both of those things.
Governor, there is a report that has been released suggesting that fallowing crops, including reducing growing of alfalfa and hay to ensure that more water gets to the Great Salt Lake to restore it to a healthy level. As a farmer yourself, what do you think of that concept?
Yeah, look, there's been lots of reports on these issues. I'm not a huge fan of fallowing, but by the way, the amazing thing about alfalfa is that it is a crop that allows for fallowing. So in dry years, we just don't water it, and it can survive for another year, which is one of the reasons it's a great crop. There's another report that came out before that report that said that alfalfa is the perfect crop for this type of weather where we do have drought, and a great opportunity to conserve water in the years where we desperately need to conserve water the most. And so we continue to work with our ag community to make good decisions, and I'm very supportive of the direction that we are headed as a state. Working with the commissioner of the Great Salt Lake, I support the report that was put out there. We're doing a much better job of working with our farmers. We've set aside significant money to increase the technology that exists so that we can grow more food with less water. We're going to continue to work with them to make that happen. I'm more concerned than honestly about the loss of farmland in our state that's happening naturally, again, because of the price of land right now, because we're not building enough homes, that more and more farmers are just getting out of the farming business completely, and so that's we need to grow food here. That's really important to me, and sadly, too many of those reports don't recognize the importance of that.
Have you considered taking advantage of some of these incentives for growing crops with less water on your own farm?
Yeah. So we've made some of those in the past, not taking advantage of this new money, but in the past we've done so. We used to be a farm that was flood irrigated. We don't flood irrigate anymore. We use pressurized irrigation in our farms. We've moved away from some of our hand lines, which aren't as use a little more water towards wheel lines and other technologies on our farm. We have not applied for any of this new money, nor would I feel comfortable applying for any of this new money. I would also say that my farm is not in the basin, the Great Salt Lake Basin.
Sure.
So
it's statewide too.
Yeah, it is absolutely an issue statewide for sure. I just wanted to point out I've been accused of taking water from the Great Salt Lake. So.
We have another reporter joining us remotely we'd like to get to. That's Grace Maya with Utah Daily Chronicle. Grace, go ahead.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, Governor. I work with Utah Daily Governor at Utah Daily Chronicle. The youth speakership has to higher education. Support that? And if so, where would you like to target it?
Thanks, Grace. You were cutting out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question around the funding of higher ed, and I think I heard you say where would you like to target? Look, we've been working closely with our presidents of our universities, including President Taylor Randall, one of the best university presidents in the country right now. We're so lucky to have him, as are so many of our presidents here in the state of Utah. All of our presidents, I believe it's the best group of presidents we have, working closely with the State Board of Higher Education and Jeff Landward there. We've been working with the Senate President and the Speaker, trying to figure out what this is going to look like. And so I don't want to kind of pre-bake exactly where the direction this should go, but it just makes logical sense that we would look at those those degrees and certificates that are providing the most benefit for students and those that are providing the least, and fund more on the one end and a little less on the other end. Now, look, it doesn't mean that every decision has to be an economic decision, nor should it be. We don't want every degree in higher ed to just be an economic-based degree. That's not good for us. That's not healthy. The arts are important, even if you can't get the best job in the world with an arts degree. Those things absolutely matter. But we do have an economic imperative, and as taxpayers are paying for it, my parents always told me, if you don't want people to tell you what to do with your money, then don't take their money. And so as long as taxpayers are going to be paying a significant amount of funding for higher education, then their representatives are going to have a say in what that looks like. And so we'll get together and we'll figure this out, and I think it will be a net benefit for everyone.
Governor, your office has suggested that changes are coming to the remote work policy. Will these state employees be asked to return to the office full time? Yeah, so we're still working on that. We'll have more to announce on that soon, Brigham. What I can say, as we're developing that, and we'll share that with you when it's ready to go out. We were working on remote work before much of the rest of the country was working on remote work. So Governor Herbert had asked me to run a pilot project, and we did that. This was, I want to say, back in 2018 maybe timeframe, and the pilot project was very successful. That showed that remote work can work if it's done in the right ways, and you don't just send people home with a computer. It's much more detailed than that. You have to have incredible oversight. You have to have different training. You have to have an area of your house that is set aside specifically for work, so you have an actual workspace that had to be approved and compliant. And when you do that, we see actually an increase in productivity. Then the pandemic happened, and the good news is Utah was well ahead of the curve. We were able to keep people working, keep government open as they were able to work from home, and yet we didn't have those same things in place for the thousands of workers that were working remotely. Over the past year, we have been bringing more and more people back into the office. The past couple years, actually, and so we'll continue again to evaluate where it works, where it doesn't. We're also looking at ways to save taxpayer money. And one of the ways we've been able to do that over the past few years is by having shared workspaces and getting rid of some of the leases that are very expensive and costing taxpayers a lot of money. So what we're trying to do is to figure out how do we safeguard that the employees who are working on behalf of the taxpayers are efficient and productive, and that we're giving them as many opportunities as possible. Look, remote work has its place, but so does being together. And that's another thing that we learned during the pandemic. It's not healthy to be isolated. We need that feedback. We need that interaction that comes not just from doing your work, but from saying hi when you go to the water cooler, right, or to the restroom, and being able to get in a room together and just be able to talk and look at each other face to face. That matters. And so those are the things that we're working through right now, and there will be more to come.
But is it working or is it not?
Yeah, so again, parts of it are working. I think parts of it aren't, and that's what we'll be addressing, Ben.
Okay, that's all the time that we have, so I think we're going to wrap here.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be careful out there. I'm just thinking about our young drivers. It is winter, and we have another small storm coming up here in a couple days, so I just want our hearts go out to the people of Southern California who are struggling right now. I would encourage Utahns, there are opportunities to donate out there. Again, please donate only to those charities that are verified and where the money actually goes to people. But we're all Americans, and we can work together to help our friends in California. Thank you.